everyone, and welcome to the Essential Health podcast series. I'm your host, Yeji Lee. In this series, we share practical and accessible tools to support your well being and to help you navigate the real life challenges that we all face in life. Today, we're talking about a topic that can feel very normal on the surface, but can become something more over time. Now, we're talking about alcohol and stress, and specifically when coping starts to become a pattern. Now, this is not about judgment, it's about awareness. Because many people don't realize that when a habit shifts into something that may be impacting their mental health, their relationships, and even their performance at work. So today I want to walk through three key questions. First, why do we turn to alcohol as a way to cope with stress? Second, how do you recognize when it's becoming a pattern rather than an occasional choice? And third, what are some healthier ways that we can cope with stress? So let's start off with that first question. Why do we turn to alcohol when we're stressed? So, for many people, alcohol is accessible, it's socially accepted, and it's often tied to relaxation. It can feel like a quick way to unwind after a long day, and it slows things down. It takes the edge off, and in the moment, it can feel like relief. Now, especially after a demanding workday, when you might be dealing with tight deadlines, conversations, and constant pressure, it can become a kind of signal that the day is over and I deserve this. And over time, your brain starts to associate alcohol with stress relief. But here's the really important piece. Alcohol doesn't actually reduce stress. It just temporarily masks it. And that underlying stress, it's still there. Whether it's work pressure, relationship strains, financial concerns, or just feeling overwhelmed with life. And when that effect wears off, those stressors, they're going to return. And sometimes they return even more intensely than before. And especially for employees in high pressure, high stress roles, or those that are balancing work and caregiving responsibilities, that cycle can become even more appealing sometimes. And, you're carrying a lot, and it makes sense to want a way to decompress. But when that becomes the primary way that you cope, it can start to shift from choice to habit. And that leads us to the second question. How do you recognize when coping becomes a pattern? Now, this is where it can get a little bit more subtle. It's not always about how much you're drinking. Often it's about the role that alcohol is playing in your life. You might notice that you're reaching for a drink more frequently, not just occasionally, but on most days. It may start to feel automatic, something you do without really thinking about it. You might find yourself looking forward to that drink as the main way to get through the day, or feeling like it's hard to fully relax without a drink or two. Some people notice that their alcohol tolerance may increase. They may need more alcohol to feel the same effect. And others may notice that they're having changes in their sleep, in their mood, and their overall energy levels. And sometimes it starts to impact other areas of life. So, you may feel less present with your family. You may start to be less patient. You may be more fatigued the next day at work, and focus and productivity can slip. Those small stressors may feel bigger and, more stressful because your system is not fully resetting. And there can also be a mental load, thinking about when you're going to have your next drink or feeling a sense of guilt or questioning your habits. And I think one of the most helpful questions that you can ask yourself is this helping me cope with my stress? Or is it becoming something that I rely on to get through the day? Because when it becomes a pattern, it can quietly affect your well being over time. So now we're moving on to that third question. What are some healthier ways that we can cope with stress? Now, our goal here, it's not perfection. It's about awareness and balance. If alcohol has become a go-to coping strategy for you, the first step is simply noticing that, it's become a coping strategy for you without judgment. From there, it can be helpful to start building alternative ways to decompress. Now, that might look like creating a simple transition plan or some kind of a ritual at the end of your workday. In forms of self care, whether that's going out for a walk, changing your environment, taking a shower to wash the day off, or even just sitting in the quiet for a few minutes before moving into your evening. Movement can be incredibly effective for stress. Even short bursts like stretching or going for a quick walk outside. For some people, it helps to empty out the stress from the day. So that can look like journaling, talking it through with someone that you trust or can, understand or relate with, or even mentally closing out the workday by writing down what you'll handle tomorrow. So kind of creating like a checklist of my to-dos for tomorrow. If your mind tends to race at night, simple breathing exercises or mindfulness practices can really help your body shift out of that stress response. And importantly, connection matters. Talking to someone, a friend or a partner or a professional, can really help process what you're carrying instead of bottling it all in, which is where your employee assistance program can be a very valuable resource. EAP offers confidential support, whether you are dealing with stress or burnout or just noticing patterns that you want to better understand. It can be a space where you can talk openly without judgment and to explore healthier ways to cope with that stress. If alcohol use is something that you may be questioning, even slightly, it's a valid response or a reason to reach out. You don't have to wait for it to become a bigger issue because support early on can really make a meaningful difference. And as we wrap up today, I want to leave you with this. Coping is something that we all do. We all need to do it to survive. The question isn't whether you cope, it's how. And over time, small habits can turn into patterns that either support your well being or quietly work against it. And if this topic resonated with you, maybe take a moment to reflect, not with criticism, but with curiosity. What helps you truly decompress at the end of a long workday? What helps you feel restored and balanced and not just temporarily relieved? And if you need support, your employee assistance program is here for you. And with that, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. On behalf of everyone here at Essentia Health, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.